Okay, let's listen to RhONA Mitra's not so veiled bunch of hints. The rest of them you can pretty much ignore apart from the Steinberg. Yeah, these three Steins here at the ComicCON 2014. But listen to RhONA Mitra. She really lays it on thick and coded. Well, it's not even coded. It's just, you will understand it anyway.
Yep. How do you portray somebody kind of in a world that she doesn't really understand or know, and can you talk about the difficulty navigating that with these sailors?
The wonderful thing about where she comes from in a place of not being part of this very specific linear world is that there's a little bit of a dog with the bone quality where any sort of emotional or technical blueprint that could have gone before really goes out the window, because ultimately she has a goal, which is to save the human race. And so one just sort of, I suppose, a little bit like a pit bull, gets on with the task at hand and tries to have as good a manner about it as possible without ruffling feathers. But ultimately the idea is to get everybody on side so we can work towards the common goal of saving the human race together. And it's a collaboration, it can't be done alone. And the wonderful thing about any human being, especially on this precipice, is that whatever...
Right, there's the first one. Now, they've mentioned a pandemic, a virus, but she's the only one who says on the precipice. Yeah? On the precipice of what? 2014. On the precipice of the operation. And she drops hints. You listen.
You've learned before, or whatever credentials she's had, and whatever they know and have been through before, it's not to say that it goes out the window, but you have to use everything you've learned thus far and come together as a conglomerate. And there's a lovely humility and there's sort of an innocence about it, actually, because we're dealing with uncharted waters, and I think that there's as much as there's a tenacity about what she does, I think that there's also a very strong-headed but also open agenda that she has, which is like, look, I just need everyone with me. So it's really fun.
Agenda.
Being the rogue element.
There you go, rogue. Now, why would she mention agenda, rogue? The Rogue Boomer card, that's the next one. The submarine missile boom on Seattle, November the 3rd. Yeah? So we're on the precipice, an agenda, rogue.
Along with our wonderful Tex, who comes in to play that human force, to be a pulse, to be female.
Pulse. That's number 4. Pulse. Blackout. Rogue. Pulse. Come on.
To be vibrant, to sweat.
To sweat. Mm-hmm.
And to be a little bit undone. And it's a wonderful thing to play with Eric, because he's so focused and has such a strict course, but also he allows his human element to come out in playing Tom Chandler and find this woman in that common goal, which is what it's about ultimately, because ego has to go out the window and personal differences have to go out the window, and you just have to come together to move forward, and it's a lovely place to be.
Yeah. Adam Baldwin.
Okay, now I'm going to reverse it to these guys. They also, I wouldn't say they drop the hints like she does. I mean, she's just dropped at least 4 hints, and they're direct hints on the precipice, agenda, rogue boomer, and what was the other one? Yeah, pulse, blackout. Anyway, let's go back.
Can you...
Give it a second. I'm going to go to Steinberg here.
Just picked up for a 2nd season. But since we are in the middle of the first season, I kind of want to start with Hank and Steve. Hank, can you kind of talk about the origins of this show and kind of where this idea came from?
Well, the idea was brought to us by Michael Wright, the president of TNT, who had the... Can you hear me or no?
Come on, man, play it. It's ComicCON. Hit it hard. Let's go.
So the book was brought to us, and we had to figure out a way to adapt it. It was a book written in the 80s about a nuclear holocaust, and Steve and I sat down and said, we got to update this. We love the idea of a ship at sea, people isolated, a new world.
People isolated, a new world order. Yeah, self-isolate, nuclear.
An apocalypse and...
Apocalypse. How many of these things have we heard recently? Yeah? And living in.
And we came up with the idea of let's modernize it. Let's make it about a pandemic that is...
Pandemic.
Decimated 80% of the population. And the thing that we wanted to do that was different than the book and different than every other post-apocalyptic show that you've seen is that they have hope. They can actually solve the problem. And the show doesn't take place after the apocalypse has happened, like Mad Max or Walking Dead.
Yeah, then you got your vaccine, and that would be the nightmare.
I love Mad Max.
We see you.
It takes place now. You're watching the apocalypse happen now, and...
Right, that's now, you understand? Okay, there's more, but I'm going to stop it there. You've got enough already.